So in this video, we'll be talking about a chain link fence installation project that we are doing at our small tennis club. It consists of 2 red clay tennis courts, highly maintained, professionally maintained, a nice, great, small community tennis club, and we had a budget because it took quite many years to save for this project. So I'm going to show you our challenges, our plan, and where we saved money. And this may relate to you if you're looking to install chain link fence on your property or at your club or house. And hopefully this will give you some ideas and show what we done. And also this is a little brief information thing for our membership if they're interested. So let's get on along with the video. These are photos. This is an older photo with how the club looked. We had our windscreens. We had our 50-year-old fence, which the club is going to celebrate its 50th year, and I could pretty safely assume that the fence was up from year 1 by some of the trees taking over the fence poles that you'll see in the photos here. So one of the improvements, it was rusty. It was painted originally green. I don't know if it was painted from the original color, but we took spray paint and painted the poles, and that really gave a big boost to curb appeal for a little bit of member labor and the cost of, I don't know, maybe it was a case of spray cans. So pretty simple, time-consuming job, but it really boosted the curb appeal, and that lasted a few years, and that was good. So these are pictures I took today. It's in mid-project, and it's March 7th. So the season will start in May, so we'll be ready to go with a brand new fence by May comes along. Now this is from inside the courtyard where we have chairs, we have a shed, and this is the main entrance, and we used to use a chain with a lock, which did its job many years. Members get a key, but with the new fence, we are having a self-closing door that will automatically lock, and possibly some kind of combination code lock at the door. This way we don't have to cut keys, or if we just have to cut keys, that's not a big issue. And maybe I think we're widening this. I'm not 100% sure, but that is the plan for this area. We're going to get a new gate here for the court entrance, and the court entrance over here. And I think we're gonna replace this fence. All the chain link is going to be replaced brand new. These poles, if they're in good condition, because I say about 20% of the poles are compromised at the base with rust. Some had 10% were intact as far as connection to the base, and some were totally disconnected because it rusted through and they weren't supporting anything, and we were afraid a windstorm could come and bring down the rest of the good poles because of the weak poles, and it was definitely time for an upgrade. Now another problem that we had here that we fixed, which didn't seem like a big deal, but now that I look at it, it really makes a nice impact. This side fence, we replaced all the poles because this was like 2 feet lower than this side. Not a big deal, but visually it really changes the look of the entrance with making it look symmetric, and if we make the effort to have the nice brick straight and everything else straight and nice, why not the fence? And it worked out pretty good. So over here is where they put the new poles. The contractor is doing a really good job with replacing poles because this is the clay court. So it seems like he took off the top maybe inch or two layer of red clay, dug, filled cement, backfilled, and then put the red clay material back in order to not damage or alter the court. And that's a nice effort for the contractor to do. And new chain link fence, new poles right here in this section. Then this is the symmetry I was talking about. You know, you got the straight shed, you know, straight lines. If you're into that, this was always higher. This will stay original, and this will be. This is all brand new, and I think it's about 8 foot. And these poles maybe we'll hit with some nice shiny spray paint during the season, just so that it could kind of match the new covering here to really make the job right. That could be an interesting project in the spring. Here's another shot of the entrance, and usually this is more dressed up with patio furniture. Right now it's off season, so it's bare bones. And this is just a side shot. Good installation on the poles here. And you'd be surprised how much fencing had to be done. When we were doing the numbers, we estimated about $19,000, but we knew more poles would have to be taken out than others. So where did we save money? We saved money by reusing poles that had not been rusted through on the bottom. The poles that we changed were totally compromised at the bottom, and the cement that the pole was laid into the ground had to be dug up, pulled out, a new pole put in, and re-cemented and covered. So maybe 20% of the poles had to be done. A few extra had to be done that weren't in the estimate. So maybe the final cost is going to be a few thousand more. And we expected that because we kind of knew the condition. So here's the old chain link fence. You see like the greenish rust color. You know, that's the way the old poles were before we painted. So this is the original pole, and it still looks pretty good with our black paint job, and it's not compromised at the base. I'll show you a few compromised poles. And this is a brand new pole, so it's not too far off in color. And you could see the care that the contractor took to cement a new pole in and keep the integrity of the clay court around the pole. Even though it's off to the side, we have our courts professionally maintained, and we like it looking really good all the way up to the fence. And go another picture here. This was an old original gate. It had another door here. This tree must have grew in the meantime. It probably wasn't there when this gate was designed for this spot, because who would build a gate with a door right in front of a tree? You can see right here the fence marks that were cut in the bark, because the tree was already leaning. As a matter of fact, you could still see wire here in the fence. So that tree is less than 50 years old, that's for sure. And that's part of the problem in several areas. So over here, we see the door that we were just looking at, and this is a original pole. It's not going to be changed. I think at this point, all the poles that needed to be changed were changed. This back corner on court number 1 is pretty interesting. Look at where the original fence went through this tree. Now, this is amazing because nobody, I don't think, drilled a hole through the tree and ran a pole through it. This tree grew around this pole, and here's the other end of the pole coming out. So this was a 90-degree corner from here to here and to here. So you can't take out the tree, don't want to. So we came in, or the contractor came in. This is an original pole that looks like it's going to stay. It came in, so the contractor went out a foot inside the court, added this pole, new pole, and I guess is going to close off the fence there. And it's not going to be a 90-degree angle, but it solves the problem. And we have generous space on the court. You will hardly ever need to go back here during a playing tennis because there's plenty of space. So this is that same pole. You see this is the original pole in here, and he only went about a foot, 15 inches, and successfully put in that pole. Pretty interesting. Now here's the original pole from that same spot going up into the tree again, and this is that pole that was going right through the tree. And wow, nature is amazing. You know, the fence was leaning on this tree, and there was, you would have to get rid of this tree, which is obviously probably 80 years old, and that's not going to happen. That's just more expense. More fence to be hauled away, old fence. And we used as much as the old fence as possible because those poles were very substantial. I'll show you in a couple of photos, and I'll talk about the choice we had to make in between poles to get. And we had option. This is another example of an original pole being swallowed up by a tree. And what's unique about this club is that it's surrounded by large trees. So no matter how hot it is in the summer, you could play in cool shade. Drawback, it drops acorns and leaves during the spring, which is a little bit more maintenance from the members to sweep the courts. This is the original pole, and look how thick that is. What is that, a 1/4 inch? I don't know, but the weight of this pole was substantial. This felt like a 40 pound piece that I lifted up, and this is what rusted through in the ground. This is a new pole. Now we had the option, this is where we save money, to get, I think it was like 40-year poles that were guaranteed to last 40 years, and this is probably one of those. This is obviously more than half lasted 50 years and are going to last many more because we're reusing them and not replacing them. So this is a substantial pole. So they did it right with the best materials 50 years ago. Now these are our replacements. Now you can see it's much thinner and this is much lighter, and I think we got 25-year poles because 25 is a long time. And if we would have went with the best pole to put there, which is 30 or 40, it would have doubled. We would have had to replace all the poles. It would have doubled the estimate. So $40,000 fence versus a 20-something thousand fence is a big deal. And we chose to go that route, which is just fine. So these are new poles put in, still on court 1, and it's going to look nice with the chain link fence and new windscreens that we have in the budget also. This is why we couldn't throw all the money into the fence. And another difficult hole to dig here for a new pole right next to a large tree. Here a pole was set in next to an existing, and this looks like a short distance because we are installing doors, one on each court, on the opposite side of the fence on the shed side. If you lost the ball over the fence and fell on this side, you had to rely on a dog walker or a jogger to come by, which is pretty often, and it worked for many years. But some wanted to go with doors on the side, which I think is okay. It didn't break the budget, and I feel it's a safety issue that is resolved. Because if you have one way in, one way out, you're kind of trapped. And I'm always a worst case scenario type person. It's just in my nature. So if you need to flee in an emergency, you could flee through this door or just get your tennis ball. These will close behind you if you don't have someone holding it for you. This way, we don't have to worry about people forgetting to lock it, and we lock up the courts at night and we're not in use in the season. So these will have a spring to close behind you. You can't gain access back in unless someone opens it from the inside. You will have to walk around to the main court and gain access again. More poles being replaced. This is down still on court 1. And this is another example of Mother Nature doing its thing right around that pole. I think that's probably a keeper, because how do you change that? Matter of fact, that makes the club unique. This is the new fence of the courtyard. Let's call the courtyard. And this is the shed. We'll have fencing behind the shed. All brand new. Great installation. This looks like new top rails ready to be installed. The contractor is taking great care to keep the courts in good condition. New pole, new pole, new pole. We got stumps here, old stumps. Now, this is what they're dealing with when they dig out an old pole. The pole will be compromised here, rusted, and this is how deep they went in the hole. So the holes look like about 12 inches in circumference, maybe 18, 20. And this looks like about 2.5 feet deep with cement. So that's pretty substantial, and that's why this fence has stood for 50 years. And then this piece looks like it's the top of this piece, and you got those thick 1/4-inch poles in this much cement, 2.5, maybe 3 feet deep, and it's no wonder they lasted so long. An old stump here, they have to go around it. Great job. Again, respecting the integrity of the clay court. Great work. And another unique feature of an original pole. Now, see this rust here? That rusted out, and this looks like it was a repair job there at one point, maybe a welded patch. But when it comes into contact with the ground, moist ground, for too long sitting water, it will rust out even that substantial 50-year-old pole. So that's what we were dealing with and why we were replacing. Another new pole. Now this is the back of court 2 facing court 1 and the courtyard, and we're on an island, a traffic island in a nice neighborhood with a busy street one way here and a busy street one way there, surrounded by trees all around, big trees, great shade in the summer, and you have birds. The lighting gets a little bit tricky sometimes, but there's pros and cons for everything. Nothing is perfect. Back corner fence again. This is another pole in the ground that's probably going to have a connector. And this is another example of what we were dealing with. Some of those poles on the base were rusted like this, either barely holding or just not holding at all. Over here looks like an extraction that they did, and they bent the pole in the process, or maybe the pole was bent from being bent, but I didn't see how they were taking them out. I could see how maybe they attached it to something to pull hard and probably got a little bend in there. And going along, the trees is not going to be perfectly straight. We're going to work around the trees as best we can. And another new pole. And that is my hash browns. Never mind that. So that's the French project. The budget was 19. It's probably going to come in putting in those extra poles that couldn't be saved, and probably going to come in around 22ish. I'm not sure. We had, if we were to do everything total replacement, it would have been easily 45 grand, 50 grand, and that's a big difference from 20, which will last another 25 years easily. And I'm just being generous. It could be more. And that's a great bang for the buck. The club is going to look amazing. And we're going to have some extra features of the new doors in the side here so that we could go on this side of the court. And it's just going to give it extra curb appeal. Great investment for the club. The members will enjoy it. It'll look great for the neighborhood. And I will do another video on the completion and show you how it looks when it's done. If you like to see that, like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.